Okay, good afternoon folks. Welcome to our first conference of 2020 around the themes of mobile digital. Thank you very much firstly to our sponsors for today's event, Viewpoint. And as we've always said in previous meetings, and I'll say it again today, the success of our events is always down to the programme that we provide. And if you think there's something we should be doing or things that we need to add or other ways to deliver the programme that we have of conferences, then please either speak to myself or Liz or Donna or put that on the feedback forms which are on the tables already. Okay, first bit then, my part of a digital news update. And this time round, after several requests from various places, we're actually recording this and we will have it available on some format somewhere. I haven't quite worked out where I'm going to stick it afterwards. But we are recording this so it's available for people at a later date. So, digital news update brought to you by thinkBIM. Okay, first one, start at the kind of the high level, I suppose, that back in December there was various reports come out, well there's reports all the time, but the government published that the digital economy in its totality is worth more than 400 million a day. And the sector contributes 149 billion to the economy, and that was up by 8% from the last year. So we're in the right space. And the space is growing as well, that whilst it had been growing in line with the general economy, from 2015 onwards, digital has been outstripping the rest of the economy. So again, we are in the right place to be leading that charge. Jumping slightly more recently, only in the last week or so, the National Infrastructure Commission has published their latest annual monitoring report. For those of you that are interested, all the links that are up in the corners are to either the articles that these documents came from or to the web pages that they refer to. And they have in their report, pleased to see, talking about digital twins, as one would expect, which we will be talking about in May at our conference in May, but also set the government various targets to delivering the National Infrastructure Strategy, obviously after slight hiccups last year with various political intrigue going on, to support the deployment of technologies needed to deliver 21st century flexible energy systems. The National Infrastructure Commission looks at a lot wider than perhaps our brief of what we might think is infrastructure. Confirm plans to go ahead with Crossrail 2 and make improvements on the mobile signals in the UK's railway network. For those of you that have to try and work on trains, I'm sure you'll all appreciate the problems with that. And then also a very much more specific one in terms of the Oxford-Cambridge Expressway and the general links between Oxford, Cambridge, Milton Keynes, which they've more recently announced further funding for rail links along that part of the world. Jumping up to Scotland now, Scotland announced it is intending to build its first digital hospital, which will feature an operation command centre, so you understand when patients are deteriorating. I'm not quite sure what that means, but that was the headline that they said that they were going to tell you about. But equally, there are touchscreen navigations to help patients work their way around the site and clinicians to monitor things online from patients' families to improve care. So again, taking digital into a whole new level of not just the bricks and mortar of the structure itself. Another report that's been published since we had our last event in December is the Offsite Ready report. This has come out of the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre. This is again supported by the CITB and the Scottish Futures Trust with various other partners, as you can see from on the screen, and gives you the ability to understand actually how to deliver mobile offsite solutions to your sites. It's not a huge long read, it's an easy read, it's well worth having a look at if that is somewhere that you're trying to understand to move your business. A robot road marker. Now this one is quite interesting because it's setting out the positions for where the lines are going to go. So it's not actually doing the white lines, but it's doing the setting out for them. But again, that would otherwise be a manual labour intensive project. It would involve people working on highways. Obviously they're not going to be live, but they're next to live highways. There's a lot of bending over and all the rest of it. So there's lots of potential issues, and I'm guessing that this thing is considerably faster and probably more accurate. And as it says on the slide there, they've already saved hundreds of hours work on various projects around the country by adopting this technology. But not just outside. there is now an organisation suggesting that we can do this inside. So again, rather than just actually sticking points down for walls internally, why not just have the robot go around the site and actually lay out printing all that information on? And this robot not only actually prints out that information onto the floor, but it also creates a progress report of what it's been doing. So you can start to understand actually, has it delivered all the setting out it was supposed to? Are there delays going on or whatever? So another very interesting way of taking the technology, taking the data from our models and actually applying it directly to site. Judith Hackett at a recent conference in Birmingham has urged materials providers to actually work digitally much faster than they are. So the quote says there, product testing, marketing, labelling and approval processes are flawed, unreliable and behind the times, which is a pretty damning indictment, unfortunately, for the industry. And we're probably all aware of this because it's been fairly widely reported that forthcoming changes to building regulations will impact the construction products material supply chain, with manufacturers having to provide more data and being more transparent about that data that they provide. But there are good stories out there as well. Lots of little things happening as well as big things. So Dord Hardware leading the way in BIM. Now this is the Guild of Architectural Ironmongerers, but also working with the National Union of Hardware Industries, a French trade association. So again, not just trying to provide a solution that works in one area, but actually to provide things across multiple countries to standardise solutions. And again, templates like that working at an international level are far more useful to an industry that is working globally, because you provide one solution and deliver it in lots of different areas, which has to be a good way going forward, rather than everybody doing their own standards. Whether we think drawings are still the future or not or whatever, CIBSE have come up with a whole series of drawing symbol libraries which are now available to download. At the moment they've done the following areas: systems abbreviations, small power, lighting, fire alarms and ventilation. So again, even if you're in the 2D workflows, the ability to download standardized symbols and codes to be used across the documentation that you're providing. This is one to watch for the future. I was on a webinar a couple of weeks ago that the National Federation of Builders is about to launch a Digital Leaders Funding Training Programme. So it's funded through the CITB and the Institute of Leadership and Management, and will provide accredited training through the NFB to its members, or possibly to wider. They're looking at how they're going to deliver this. Those of you that possibly have long memories about this will remember that the NFB also did similar sort of training about 5 years ago, which ran for a period of time. So it's good to see that this is coming back into the market, and I think also good to see it in an organisation like the NFB, which is kind of looking at that SME market rather than necessarily just doing something else for all the big major contractors. So I think there could be some really interesting stuff there, and I will keep you posted of updates on it. This one I really liked. So we all struggle thinking, oh, we've got to be competitive, we can't tell people what we're doing. But you would think that Apple, Google and Amazon are all pretty much at each other's throats in every other market. But they've actually announced that they're now going to open source the smart home standard. So their goal is that any new project, to ensure that for any new project that any smart device a consumer buys, one of us, will work with any of their platforms. So if they can do that, that's kind of disrupting the industry. And we might need to kind of look to ourselves before they start going, well, okay, we've sorted out interoperability in use. What are we going to do about making the interoperability work in the construction phase? So again, these big people that perhaps aren't in the construction space are possibly the ones to watch yet again. This one, a little bit more geeky perhaps or whatever, but just got me interested. I had never heard of Google dataset search. Has anybody else come across that? Okay, so this is a database of millions of repositories of documents and data. So if, as it just does there, you type in Leeds, Yorkshire, you get access to 78 different reports that are publicly available. So I've just clicked on the one here of a brownfield land register. There's also voting results from the European elections. There's a register of blind and partially sighted people. Admittedly, that was about 10 years old. But a whole load of data about a whole load of different things. There was a project to try and actually geolocate all the bus stops in West Yorkshire, which was done at a period of time and posted up here. So you've got things from organisations like Leeds Data Mill that works with Leeds City Council to make data publicly available. So really interesting resource, and that was just me typing in Leeds, Yorkshire. But you equally may find wherever you are working in the country or globally that there are data sets there that you might want to use to help to enrich the processes that you're working on. So all freely accessible data available through, as I say, this Google database search set. And then I think this is my final one, which again was rather interesting. So I don't know if anybody of you saw this, creating a virtual traffic jam in Google Maps. So this was an artist in Berlin who got himself 99 second-hand smartphones, stuck them all onto Google Maps, put them in a trolley and walked up and down a street. The net effect was that Google thought there was a big traffic jam on that street and directed all the cars to go somewhere else because that street highlighted red, just because he's walking up and down with a whole load of smartphones. And that's a really kind of interesting idea in terms of actually, do you just send your kids up and down the street with 20 smartphones to keep the street traffic free to play with? I don't know, or whatever. But very interesting how, in almost sort of good ways, you are hacking technology and making it work better for you. So that was an interesting one, which I think is for us to finish with on the update. And then I've got a couple of slides for the latest bits and pieces from the UK BIM Alliance. Apologies, that shouldn't say October 2019. We'll change that in the edit. Okay, so Building Smart UK and Ireland, BSUKI, is part of the UK BIM Alliance. It's been a little bit sort of quiet for probably 12 months or so, but the intention is to actually try and get things going again over the course of this year. So there's now a steering group that's been formed of Casey Rutland, Emma Hooper, David Owens and Nick Nisbet. And the opening event forum, BSUKI Assemble it's called, I think, is on the 31st of March, and that will be taking place up in Newcastle. It's in the morning before the actual UK BIM Alliance forum that's taking place in the afternoon. And then similarly, in recent weeks or so, the UK BIM Alliance has held an Alliance Affiliates meeting, again with the team that's listed up here, led by Gary Fannon at Turner and Townsend. And they already had a briefing session with 22 representatives from the various organisations there. And for me, as chair of thinkBIM, if any of you or you know anybody that's involved in any of those organisations at a regional level, we'd be really interested to know, because again, if we are to get the message out through these organisations, through these affiliates, trade associations, professional organisations, then it needs to happen at a regional level as much as at a national level. So we're already starting to have some conversations again with CIOB as to how we can do work with them as thinkBIM and do joint events for, to represent the UK BIM Alliance, and I'm sure there will be other opportunities too. UK BIM Alliance communities, so the communities represents the BIM regions around the country. thinkBIM is the home of the Yorkshire and Humberside BIM region, and then there are BIM4 community groups. Again, big task to try and herd all those sheep, put bluntly, or even cats. They are hard work at times or whatever. So we now have a team of 7 with support from Pam Bandel, and we're moving forward to try and actually understand what the various community groups have been doing, what information they might want to share, and perhaps with some of the less active regions, how we can support them to try and get the word out again on the streets to the communities to try and make people understand more about what digital is about. So again, if you've got other parts of your business operating in other parts of the UK, they haven't got things like thinkBIM happening or things with the BIM regions, then by all means come and have a chat with me and we can see who we can put you in touch with to try and get messages out, or if you want to support or help run events in other parts of the country, more than happy to do that. Then I think finally for me, the UK BIM Alliance Forum, so they're quarterly open meetings available to anybody and everybody. This is taking place at the Great Hall in Northumbria University on the 31st of March. So that's an afternoon meeting after the Building Smart meeting in the morning. So there'll be updates from the UK BIM Alliance executive, from the engagement teams and the project teams, just to tell you kind of what they're up to, what they're trying to do, and an opportunity to ask questions or put forward suggestions as to where you think the UK BIM Alliance should be going and what work it should be focusing upon. Okay, and that's me. So I shall now attempt to press pause on the video.